Hey neighbor, today we're going to be talking about the intent of gardening, why you want to garden, and you know what? On a ride we took the other day, we listened to a very interesting conversation from a doctor that's wrote a book and doing some podcast on why the benefits of eating fresh food is. I found it extremely interesting. So today that's what we're going to be talking about. Why is the intent of why you should garden? Welcome to the Row by Row Gardening Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet, where we talk about gardening, a little bit of cooking, and growing your own food. Now sit back and enjoy. So we was on a little road trip the other day, and this lady, if you've not heard of her, called Casey Mears. She's a physician. I say that right, physician. Mm-hmm. And she's making her rounds on all these podcasts. We heard her on Glenn Beck, but I've heard her on Joe Rogan. She's been on all of them. And she wrote this book. Make sure I get the book right. It's called Good Energy. I've listened to 2 or 3 of her podcasts. I've not read her book, but Good Energy is the name of it. You can find it on Amazon or wherever. She also writes this. She has a blog site, so she writes on there. She digs into what is the problem with our diet, and one thing that I found particularly interesting was processed foods. I've often had the inclination that there was something going on with our processed foods, and that was the enemy in our diets. But she really digs down inside of it, tells you why. Some of the findings that they found there is absolutely amazing and mind-boggling.
It was so interesting, the chemicals that we allow in our food that the other countries don't. And they know that they're carcinogenic.
Yeah, some of them are. And the European Union has been above the regulations on some of this way better than the U.S. For a number of years. So she draws conclusions between the two there. But she also travels down the journey of how our processed food products get approval.
Oh, that was interesting.
That was interesting. Anyhow, if you've not seen one of her podcasts, or I may even order a book and read a book. I think it'd be interesting. Now, I don't agree with her on 100% everything. I found a couple of things that she said that I kind of question a little bit, but the premise of what she says I think is interesting. I think it's a good bit of it's factual. I think it's something we need to look in and we need to understand more. Just the simple thing of our dyes and our flavoring in our food, and I don't know why, you just don't think of certain things, but how many times you go to the grocery store and you buy strawberry flavored drinks or strawberry flavored something other? Well, we know they can't extract that much strawberry juice from strawberries because it's just not feasible. So they take these molecules and they synthesize them, and they make these particular synthesized molecules to match these flavors. And we're ingesting all them, and we should be alarmed and concerned, and we should do a better job at our eating. Now, that being said, it's tough in this day and age because we go to the grocery store and you get caught up in buying something that jumps off the shelf and jumps into your buggy. It happens, especially if you got kids or grandkids and they're used to eating candy and this junk food. It's hard to get them off of it. It's hard to move in the right direction. But it's a journey that I think we should all look at taking. It's often been my goal, and I've not come there nowhere near it, to be able to eat what we grow and to grow what we eat, to be self-sufficient and to stay out of the grocery store. We've done better at times than that, but have we completely stayed away from the grocery store? No. But I think that is a good goal to have. It would be kind of different to go down that road, but just yesterday, we ate out of the garden all day long. We ate lunch and supper last night out of the garden, and it was delicious.
And Sunday too.
And Sunday too. It was peas, cornbread from corn we grew. It was collard greens. It was meat in the collard greens from our animals we've raised. It is possible, but it does take a commitment. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a dramatic commitment of being able to prepare in advance of all that. Now, we probably do a lot better job than most people out there, and I'm sure these people out there do a lot better job than we do, because we was just raised that way, and we've done it for a long period of time, not because it was cool, but just we had to.
Necessity.
Yeah. So let's get into that. There again, the lady's name is Dr. Carrie. Make sure I get this. Casey. I said Carrie. Casey Means, MD, and the book is Good Energy. So if you Google on Casey Means, her blog site will come up and you can get started reading there and go from there. I think you will find it extremely alarming of some of the things she says.
Talking about peas.
Yep.
Look here. These are top pick
Pink eye.
pink eyes. And we've had these for the last couple of weeks. I've picked them 3 times. And we've shared. I canned some and took them to my mother and grandmother. What you think?
I think, to me, this is my favorite variety. Next to this is going to come zippers for me, excuse me. A lot of people like the little small cream 40s, things like that, but we prefer a pink eye type pea or a Crowder type pea. And this top pick pink eye, to me, is my favorite because of the growth habit of it. It all loads up on top. It makes a pink eye pea that when you cook it, it comes up with a clear broth, not a dark broth.
So, yeah, it's green, but when you cook it, they turn brown or pinkish brown. Really good flavor.
And they're very productive. So the vines, we've got a spot probably 30 by 40 that I planted these, and they've yielded really well.
They're easy to pick. How do you know when they're ready? When they turn this pinkish color. Now, if you let them stay on there too long, they'll dry real quick. Or you can see this green one start turning the pink down the, what do you call that, a vein?
Yep.
There. But they're easy to pick, and I can get a 5-gallon bucket about every 3 or 4 days.
How many times have you picked them so far?
3.
3 times. And they still loaded up, still blooming. Now, as you've probably heard me say before, I'm a firm believer in planting these in the fall of the year, not in the spring. I have sprayed these things one time. Have you seen the first sting pea? Not the first sting on these peas here. So being able to plant them in the fall of the year reduces your pest pressure on these peas dramatically. And that's Maggie's snoring over there in the corner. That is dramatically different than most of your other crops. Most of your other crops we find insect pressure more so in the fall, but with these cow peas it's the opposite of that. So I highly encourage you to plant in the fall of the year regardless of the variety you like to plant.
And our collards are coming in.
Yep, collards, we had a good
Had a
mess of collards.
first fall mess of collards.
Yep, we got mustard greens coming along. We got all kind of things coming. Everything looks really good. Pest pressure, even on our greens, has been dramatically less this fall than what been before. And since the hurricane, I've not seen any whitefly pressure. The hurricane come through here and just stirred up the insects, and for some reason, I don't know why, I hope you're experiencing the same thing, our insect pressure has been way down from what it normally is this time of the year. I did have worm bite on a little bit of my Brussels sprouts, but I'm going to address that.
On your Brussels sprouts, do you take the bottom leaves off?
I don't. I just let them go.
Is that not a recommendation?
I'm not sure if it is not. I'm not growing Brussels sprouts a lot, but I have grown them. But I don't normally. I just let them do their thing, and they're growing well. But they still will be a while on Brussels sprouts.
What else you planted this week?
Oh, we planted some heirloom collards that I'm trialing. I've tried them before, but we've got a special heirloom collard that we've been working with. Got a seed source for them, so it's something we're probably going to bring out next year. It's called Alabama Blue Collard. Some of you may be familiar with it. It is a wonderful, wonderful collard there that I really like. Does good here in the South, and it's an heirloom. Has those blue veins. It has a bluish tint to it, so that's one we're working with. Got some of those planted. We've got our cover crops. Got those planted. I planted my onions that I grew. I grew some Texas onions out in my trays. We planted those last week. And next week we will start shipping onions. Our onion plants will be in Monday if the weather holds up and we don't get a big rain over the weekend. We're going to harvest them Sunday and we're going to start shipping out Monday. So I'll finish up my onions next week. It's probably going to take us 2 to 3 weeks to get all the orders out there. But fear not. Late February would be an ideal time to plant your onions. So you're going to get your...
February?
Late November. Late November is going to be a wonderful time to plant your onions. So when you get your onions, you still got plenty of time to plant them and make a great
Even
crop.
if you plant them the 1st of December,
Yes, fine.
you're fine.
Yep. You can plant them all up, way up in the 1st of January and be okay, actually. Some of the farmers here plant, last year the guy told me he planted all the way up to the 1st of January. Made a wonderful crop. So anyhow, there we have it. All right, so gardening. You know, this has kind of been a why do people garden? Why should they garden? Why shouldn't they garden?
Yeah, and there's some new gardeners out there.
A lot of new gardeners out there, and the new gardeners seem to be more hungry for information than the old seasoned guys.
So this
like
may
us.
be a repeat for some of y'all, but for the new gardeners, I found it quite interesting on the top 10 questions that the new gardeners have.
So the first, and you went through and made a list of questions we're going to talk about, is vegetable gardening worth the trouble? So, and all this can be put into perspective, is anything worth the trouble? Well, the fact of the matter is we have to have purpose in life. If you don't have purpose in life, then you're going to be facing yourself with major depression. You're going to be, obesity is going to be an issue. You're going to have all kind of problems if you don't have purpose in life.
Right.
So having something to do all the time is going to be beneficial for your health and for your body. Is vegetable gardening worth the trouble? The thing about vegetable gardening is it's great exercise activity
Mental,
and physical.
yeah. But so you can ask yourself these questions. Do you have time?
Do you have time?
Yeah.
And you match that to the type of gardening you could do.
Right.
So the last thing you want to do, which is a common thing, is to overload yourself and get out there and make it more work than it is fun where you don't enjoy it. You don't want to do that.
Do you have the space?
Yep, and the fact of the matter is you can take a very, very small space and garden nowadays. With the invention of these raised beds that we didn't have back in the day and these containers that we have now,
The green stalks?
green stalk, just about anybody can garden regardless of how big of area they have.
Do you have time to harvest?
So this is a big one for me. I love planting, I love growing, but when it comes time to harvest, she takes over for that. I'm not real good at
I
harvesting.
know. I sent him out there to get some of these peas for the show today, and he came back with 4.
A handful, yeah, I didn't know no better.
4. I was like, no, we need a little bit more than that. Do you like getting your hands dirty
Yeah, do you like being outside? Do you crave that being outside in the sunshine?
with nature?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you enjoy eating what you grow? It's one thing to grow it, but then if you don't want to eat it, it's just
And that's a side benefit of the healthiness of being able to do something exercise-wise and have an extra benefit. It's kind of like fishing. We love to fish. Fishing's fun, but the added benefit is you get something to eat at the end of the day if you're being successful.
Right.
Same thing with gardening.
and do you have the tools and resources?
Yep, and that really and truly doesn't take a whole lot. You can start out really small and really inexpensive and grow a lot of food. The worst thing you can do, and a lot of people have this problem. I was talking to somebody yesterday afternoon. We was talking about duck hunting. He was talking about one of his buddies, and he said he really gets intense in whatever he does. A lot of people, when they get a hobby, they really get intense into it, and they think they got to have everything to do it with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really not the case. The best thing to do is you just buy a little bit at a time and gradually get into it, and then kind of work your way forward so that you don't overload yourself.
Another important question is, can you handle failure?
Failure is going to be part of it, regardless of what you do. I still have failure from time to time. So if you can't handle that, then it may not be for you.
Okay. Another question is, why would you want to grow your own food? And we addressed that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I highly encourage everybody to see that. There's several different benefits. Okay, there's the benefit of health-wise, knowing what's in your food, not eating any processed foods. The second thing is actually the joy of doing that. So going back to what I said earlier, we have to have purpose in life. And us as human beings, this is what separates us from other animal species out there, is we have purpose and we have gratitude and a sense of being satisfied when we accomplish a goal. So you will see this with anybody that's in woodworking or anybody that has a hobby where they produce anything. When they build something, let's just take woodworking for example. When they build something, they're extremely happy of their accomplishment. They want to show it to other people, and they're happy for what they do because they feel like they did something. Gardening is the same way, and it may lend itself a little bit better. If you've ever seen anybody that grew something for the first time, man, they are just overjoyed with the sense of knowing they did something.
Read that quote for us.
Yeah, we got a quote here.
I'm going to throw it on the screen too.
Yep.
I found this, and it was by Joel Karsten, and he's been gardening for 40 plus years, but I thought it was pretty profound.
Vegetable gardening is as important as other essential life-giving pursuits, such as digging a well for clean water or lighting a fire for giving heat. Vegetables are essential for a healthy and balanced diet. The ability to grow food for oneself is a fundamental skill that differentiates humans from other lower animal species. I believe that human beings have some need inside of us that is only satisfied when we successfully plant a seed. That's profound. Watch it grow and then harvest the crop and eat it or share it with our loved ones. I have seen someone who has grown a garden successfully for the first time and observed how it can truly change their life. For some individuals, it may be the first real accomplishment in a long time.
And we see that a lot. We get a lot of emails, just people full of joy and accomplishment that they planted that seed and they have carrots or they have cabbage or onions. We have a neighbor down the road that I've worked with, and I just wish I had captured the joy that she had. And I think I do have one video where she was talking about it.
Yep.
That it's just a feeling of accomplishment, and you feel worthy and purposeful.
Yeah, you see that more with new gardeners. We don't get that fuzzy feeling as much as they do because we've been doing it for so long. But it's absolutely wonderful to see somebody that has gained that. And, you know, we got so many problems out there in life with all different kinds of stress and everything like this. And I think gardening is a huge stress reliever within all that. It takes our mind off some of those problems that we have from day to day and moves us on. And all that to say negates the benefit of eating healthy. So there's several different benefits of why we should vegetable garden and why we should be a goal of ours, as it is mine, to do a better job and to eat more of the food that we grow ourselves and depend less and less on processed foods. And I've been eating peas.
You like them raw?
I do like them raw.
Another question we get is, how do I get started? Where do I start at? And first, I would say make a list of your favorite vegetables that you like to eat. Find out if you can grow them in your zone where you live. Determine the space, the location. Do you have a location where there'd be a raised bed, maybe grow bags, or in ground? You want to make sure that you're going to get enough sun, 6 to 8 hours.
That's a huge mistake I see most beginner gardeners is they start using a spot in their yard that they don't use that much, and that spot could be shady or very low spot in their lawn. That's the worst place you want to put a vegetable garden. You want to put a vegetable garden out where it drains well and gets full sun.
Do a soil test. Make sure that the soil's adequate. If not, you can amend it. Plot your garden out on your graph paper and start with good quality seeds.
And start with things that are easy to grow. So a beginner gardener should never be growing corn, should never be growing watermelons. You should be growing things like radishes, you should be throwing up beets, any of the greens.
Green beans.
Green beans is easy. Any of those.
Squash, zucchini.
Oh yeah, any of those, what we categorize as easy vegetables, you're going to be more successful with when you start and go there. And as you get more better versed in gardening, and you can move on to the more complex crops such as corn and watermelons and maybe winter squash and things like that.
Start small. Mm-hmm. Don't bite off more than you can chew or take care of.
Yeah, with this whole movement we've had since COVID, with people moving out to the country from the city and everything, we're seeing a large influx of wannabe or new homesteaders that's moving out there with young families trying to do things, and so many times they jump in it too far and they cause failure. Having small kids out there, teaching them the skill set of being able to grow their own food is wonderful. The problem sometimes is when the adult and the kids learning it together. Sometimes you kind of step back a little bit, take it a little bit slower so that you don't get burnt out or you don't get frustrated.
Mm-hmm. Another question is, how do you grow organically, control insects organically? Everybody wants to do it organic. Is that feasible?
Organic so many times is used trying to mean something else. Now, I think where most people say organically is they want to eat healthy. Organically is one of those words that's been bought by the government a few years ago. So organically is not necessarily a good word. I think good healthy food is a better phrase that people should be used. And that's simply knowing what is put on your food and what you're eating. So there are ways you can grow your own food and it'd be a lot healthier than you buy in the grocery store because you know exactly what's been put on there.
How do you control weeds? Because a lot of times you plant all this and then it's taken over by weeds. And there's a lot of vegetables, root vegetables especially, like carrots, can't compete with the weeds. So how would a new gardener control the weeds?
Well, first of all, raised beds and containers are an easier way to control the weeds. If you're going to grow a bigger garden in ground like I do, make it a point to go up there every day and do something. I think where the problem lies with people gardening is they don't visit their garden about once a week or 2 or 3 times a week and things get ahead of them. Mm-hmm. So if you're growing a big garden, get in there every day, make it a point and do something in there every day. Just hoe a few weeds or whatever, and that way it'll keep it from getting away from you. If you know your time's going to be limited, raised beds or container gardening.
Yeah, and we have the Lazy Garden Kit, which really helps with weed suppression.
Yeah.
And also your
yes, it's that we've woven fabric here, and we got 2 different sizes, but the 15 by 30 I've got in the garden right now. Those collars that we eat come out of that 15 by 30 Lazy Garden Kit, and we've not had I've not pulled the first weed in that garden.
Right. You don't want to. I mean, weeds are not bad, but you don't want to grow more weeds than your vegetables.
And you don't want your weeds out competing for your vegetables.
And you don't want to water your weeds. So if you can put some type of irrigation in there,
yeah, that'll help.
You're watering just the vegetables.
What is a weed? A weed, a lot of people use that terminology. A weed is simply a plant out of place. One person's weed may be another person's flower.
Right.
So.
Like stinging nettle.
Like stinging nettle, exactly.
Another question we get is, how often do I fertilize? Now, we have great resources on our website, the growing guides. If you just go to growhouse.com and type in growing guides, pretty much for all things you want to grow, we have a guide and it tells you when to fertilize, what to fertilize with, and so forth. You want to start with great soil, as much organic matter as you can have, and maybe add some complete organic fertilizer to start off with.
Common thing I see with gardeners, beginning gardeners, is fertility. They don't understand how much fertility a plant takes. A good example of that is cabbage. Cabbage takes a lot of fertility to make a really nice big cabbage head. The best thing to do is start early on, incorporate something in there like our complete organic, and then kind of spoon feed it or feed it along and along. Every 10 days, 2 weeks, I put some fertilizer on there, keep that plant nice and healthy. And once you get the hang of gardening a little bit, this will come a lot easier to you. You can walk up there and look at that plant and tell if it needs something.
But research the plant's need, because every plant has different needs. You don't want to put a bunch of nitrogen on your beans.
Or your peas.
Or your
prime
peas.
Example, this right here, I put a little bit of fertilizer down when we planted this, and that has been it. Because if I had we would not have produced as many peas. So any of your legumes out there take very little, if any, fertilizer. But then you got plants like tomatoes that take a lot of, cabbage takes a lot of fertility.
Yeah, I think people tend to over-fertilize.
Really?
Well,
on peas and stuff. Yeah, I agree with you.
They
beans and peas
tend to, and I'm guilty of this. I'll be using that brass siphon, and I'll just fertilize everything in the garden.
Yep.
And it really doesn't need it.
Right.
But I think, and then sometimes I think, well, if a little bit does good, a lot would do a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that with a lot of things. Another question we get is, what can I plant now? So choose the right plants for your area and the season. Like onions, everybody can't grow short day onions, intermediate onions, or long day onions. You need to know what you can grow in your area. And onions is a great thing to start off with.
It is.
It's very easy, it's low maintenance. And choose plants that your family likes to eat.
Yep, don't grow beets if you're not going to eat beets.
Right.
But in the same sentence, you need to experiment because you're going to find there's gems in the garden out there that you didn't think you liked that you're going to like when they come out of the garden.
That's right. Is there a general rule on how to plant, like if you have transplants, how deep to plant them?
Yes, normally speaking, on everything that you transplant, you buy a plant at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, or whatever, and you bring it in, and you want to plant that at soil level, the same level that it was planted at in that pot, with the exception of two things that come to mind. Of course, tomatoes. We like to plant our tomatoes deep. You can't plant a tomato too deep; it'll be fine. Everything else you want to plant at soil level. And I know this is getting out of our realm a little bit, but Gerber daisies is another one that I like to plant up on a little bit of a mound. So I like to plant my Gerber daisies up on the mound, keeps them from getting crown rot so bad. You know, lettuce has never thought about would probably benefit from that too. But as far as planting in the hole, the only thing I know that you want to plant deep in that hole is tomatoes. Everything else planted at soil level that it's at.
And seeds, they require different depths. And a lot of times we plant them too deep.
Yeah, the bigger the seed, the deeper you can plant it. Now, that being said, on corn in a garden situation, I don't plant my corn over a half, 3/4 inch deep because I've got water to get it up. If you're planting in a field situation where you don't have irrigation, you'll see this a lot on information on the internet. They say you can plant an inch and a half deep, and you can. But from a garden situation, that's really not needed. You can't plant them that deep. But generally speaking, the smaller the seed, the shallower you plant it.
Beneficial insects. How important are they? Do you have to have them for your garden?
You need them for your garden, so it's also being good stewards of the land, be able to manage your insects and not kill your beneficial insects. So every time that you do a pesticide application, you're going to have a negative effect on something or other, but you want to minimize that. So keep that in mind as you're spraying, to use things that are least harmful to beneficial insects, or the timing of the day can make an effect in that as well. So understand those things before you willy-nilly go out there and just start spraying everything.
What do raised beds offer, or the benefits versus in-ground gardening?
Raised beds have a huge amount of benefits over in-ground gardening, but I'm going to focus on the problem there.
Okay.
You can't grow as much food in raised beds as you can in in-ground garden because we normally have bigger in-ground gardens. The major thing with raised beds, if you're using them or containers, either one, is water and irrigation of them. They dry out a lot quicker than in-ground gardens. So just about need some type of irrigation system in there, some type of drip system in there or whatever, so that you can water them and maybe even have more timer so they get watered more often than providing on overhead irrigation or hand watering. Because they dry out so quick, don't they?
Mm-hmm. So that's our 10 questions. In the comments, if you have better answers than us or more info, or you have some questions we didn't answer.
And if you need something to read on these long winter nights, Casey Means book, Good Energy. All right, so let's get to Garden Spotlight of the Week. And speaking of raised beds,
this is Brandy Gaddy, Spring Hill, Louisiana. She ordered her house plug bundle in mid-late September, and she says, boy, are they hossing.
Yep.
She said all of them were 100% successful. She hasn't lost not one plant, and she's already harvested 3 bunches of the collards and a grocery bag full of kale. All organic. I haven't sprayed them with anything. I fertilized them with bone and blood meal, and 2 weeks later with fish emulsion.
And she's got a little buddy there in the garden. Look at that little frog there sitting up on there. Yep, the frog's going to eat some of those insects.
So thank you, Brandy.
Yep.
Looks good.
All right, folks, so we have the old goat on the set here somewhere, and last week's winner of the old goat is Sharon Healy. Sharon found the old goat last week and put it in the comments below, as you should do this week, and we'll have a draw next week for this week's winner. This week's winner is Sharon, and Sharon, if you will send us your address to
support@growhouse.com.
There you go, Sharon. We're going to send you out a nice pair of those Get Dirty socks.
All right, other reminders. It's time to be ordering your Christmas gifts.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It is the middle of November.
It's moving up on us.
6 weeks to go.
Yep.
Make sure you get them in time. We have gift certificates. We have suggested,
We're gonna do a Christmas show next week too. Let's do a show giving people some ideas what they could offer or they could buy that gardener in their life.
a new gardener
Yep.
or established gardener. We need to do that, a new versus
I
established.
agree.
Onions, you talked about that.
Onions being next week. We're gonna be shipping next week, so excited
And
about that.
it's going to be shipping out through a 3-week, probably process.
I hope we ship out longer than that.
Well, I mean, of the pre-orders.
My goal is to get them out within 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. We're dependent upon some weather and some other
And we
things.
still have plenty in inventory, so
Yep.
if you haven't ordered, go ahead and order.
Yep.
I think that's it.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna eat me a mess of peas here. It's always good to join y'all guys. Talk gardening, talk growing your own food. Check out Casey's book or blog. I think you'll find it interesting. It's time for you to get outside and get those hands dirty.